So what's up guys, thought I would do an interesting video today talking about the Radfords. So obviously recently seen them at centre parts with the Inhams. Now this has obviously I just ruffled a few feathers. I think a lot of people are gonna look at that and go, well, why would they, why would Sue and Noel be so happy to have someone like Chris around their kids after what he was accused of? I think most people with an ounce of common sense would say that they shouldn't be allowing somebody like Chris, to be around their kids after after the allegations that were made against him a few years ago, obviously several years back. I mean, obviously, they probably, there's probably a reason why they were happy with that. Because I think a lot of people looking at that thinking, oh, why were they so happy with that? Why were they so happy for Chris to be around their kids, or for Chris to be near their kids? And I think there's probably a perfectly good reason for that. He's probably told them this whole the whole famous lie about the allegations not being true, which is why they probably had no issue with him being around kids. He's probably told them that the allegations are false. There's no truth to them. But I think you'd have to be a moron to believe that Chris didn't do what he did, or that he is in fact innocent. Because I think anybody with an ounce of common sense knows that Chris is not in any way innocent, and has never been innocent. At the end of the day, as I've said in previous videos, there's just too much evidence that proves otherwise, and there's so many things that don't add up, or don't make sense. And one of the things I've been thinking about with regards to that is, why did Chris never sue that girl's family? If she was lying, why has he never sued her family? Why is he, it's like, why would she put a YouTube video up talking about what he did if she knew that everything she was saying in that video was a load of lies? If she was, this is the thing. It's like, if she was telling a pack of lies, as it's been claimed that she was, why would she have done a big YouTube video talking about what he did if it was just a pack of lies? That doesn't add up. I think at the end of the day, I think people want to believe that Chris is innocent and want to believe that he's telling the truth, but we all know he isn't. And the Radfords are incredibly stupid for allowing him to be around their kids, but they've probably been fed that. As I said, it's a situation where they've probably sort of been fed that lie that Chris isn't in any way guilty of anything. And I think, at the end of the day, I think the Radfords get a lot of backlash for this. I think, this is what it's going to be like now. I think every time someone kind of associates themselves with the Inhams or has anything to do with the Inhams, they're always going to get a lot of backlash for that, because people are not going to be too happy about the fact that these parents are choosing to allow Chris to be around their kids. But they're going to do that. Chris is going to keep telling these people, don't keep telling people that the allegations made against him weren't true, which we all know is absolute bullshit, and has always been absolute bullshit from right from the very start. Obviously when I think about Chris and what he did, I think the whole Sue and Noel thing was it's way worse. Apparently when they had their first child, Sue was 14 and Noel was 19. Obviously, things like that would have been seen very differently back at the time when they were obviously teenagers, around that kind of period of time. Obviously, these days, a 19-year-old getting a 14-year-old pregnant is classed as rape, or if that person's branded a rapist or a paedophile. As obviously a 19-year-old is considered an adult and a 14-year-old is considered to be a child. It doesn't matter. It's only, these days, it doesn't really matter that there's only 5 years between them. it's still a case of one being a child and one being an adult in that respect. You know, I mean, as I said, you know, a lot of people question why Chris, you know, why Noel wasn't kind of banged up for, you know, for the fact, you know, for taking advantage of a 14-year-old. But at the end of the day, as I said, things would have been seen very differently back then. Things wouldn't have been seen in the same way that they are seen now. They wouldn't be seen as being, you know, back then it wouldn't have been seen as such a bad thing. But these days, obviously, you know, a 19-year-old going out with a 14-year-old and getting a 14-year-old pregnant is going to be seen as an absolutely terrible thing. I mean, obviously it is a bit of a dodgy thing there, you know, a 19-year-old going out with a 14-year-old and getting a 14-year-old pregnant. It's just I mean, that's crazy to think that Sue Radford was around about the same age that, well, it is about, you know, it's it's around the same age that Isla Ingham is now. So obviously Isla's almost 13. And Sue was around 13 years old or 14 years old when she first got pregnant. You know, that's mad. And to think about how old Noel was as well, at that time, you know, she was 14, he was 19. Obviously, you know, people question why their parents didn't see anything wrong with that. You know, why no one else saw anything wrong with that. But as I said, you know, sadly, things weren't seen. But, you know, back then, you know, things weren't seen in the same way that they're seen now. You know, they were, you know, that as I said, back then, that wouldn't have been seen as such a bad thing. But these days, obviously, you know, that is how it's seen. You know, a 14-year-old going out with a 19-year-old, it wouldn't have been seen. You know, it certainly wouldn't have caused as much of a stir as it would these days. You know, it probably wouldn't have been, you know, back then it wouldn't have been as controversial as it undoubtedly would be, you know, nowadays, or you know, in these days, kind of in the modern day. You know, it's just mad to think about the fact that they would want Chris having it. They would be, you know, the fact that they were so happy to let someone like Chris anywhere near their kids. Because no, this is the thing. Like, if people had any common sense, they wouldn't allow someone like Chris near their kids. You know, regardless of whether he's telling the truth or not. You know, that's not a risk that they should have been willing to take. You know, given what Chris, you know, given the fact, you know, regardless of whether Chris was telling the truth or not, like they should not, has always been telling the truth or not. They shouldn't have allowed him around their kids. You know, people should be keeping their kids well away from someone like Chris. They shouldn't want to allow someone like Chris to be around their kids after the allegations that were made against him, which of course he'll claim are not true. But we all know he's talking absolute bullshit because the allegations are 100% true. You know, I think anyone with an ounce of common sense would believe that. I don't care if the IFAM don't believe the allegations are true. You know, their opinions. You know, it's like, when have I ever valued any of the IFAM's opinions? I don't value their opinions. And I never have, and I never will, and I never will value their opinions. You know, I just don't think it was a good idea for Sue and Noel to be allowing someone like Chris Ingham to be around their kids. You know, I don't get why they would think that was such a good idea, or they would think that was a sensible idea. You know, I don't think they really stopped to think about the backlash that they would get for allowing someone like Chris to be around their kids after what he was accused of, after the allegations that were made against him. Because that could get them a lot of backlash. Because people aren't going to be happy about the fact that they were allowing someone like Chris to be around their kids. That was going to rub a lot of people up the wrong way. And a lot of people are going to look at that and question that, and think that it wasn't the most sensible thing for them to do. And you can't exactly blame people for questioning that because, it's not exactly the most sensible thing for them to do. It's not the most appropriate thing. The fact that, for them to be allowing someone like this to be around their kids, it's not something I would do personally. It's not, if I was a parent, I wouldn't want something, and I knew that such serious allegations have been made against someone, which in this case quite serious allegations were made against Chris. I wouldn't want that person around my kids. I wouldn't want that person near my kids. That's not a risk that I as a parent, if I was a parent, that's not a risk that I would be willing to take. Because at the end of the day, it's a risk that no parent should be willing to take. It's allowing someone with, that has such serious allegations made against them to be around their kids. At the end of the day, I don't quite know what Sue and Noel were thinking, about, with regards to allowing someone like this to be around their kids. It was the biggest mistake. That was probably the biggest mistake they've ever made. I have to say though, when I looked at the kids, it was nice to see Jace and Mila playing with the Radford kids. And what really got to me was the fact that Sarah was going off so many times in the vlog the other night about how Jace and Mila looked so happy playing with the other kids, and how they were having so much fun. And I just thought to myself, well, if they were in nursery or they were in school, they'd be getting to do that every day. They'd be getting to have fun and spend time with kids their age. And they'd be having just as much fun as they were having then. But that's unfortunately something that the likes of Jason and Mila will missing out. It's like, the problem with Chris and Sarah. It's like they only see the negative side to having it hits in school. They don't think there's a positive side to, or there's any positives to his being in school 5 days a week. But there is one huge positive about that he's being in school 5 days a week, and that means that kids are getting to, and that's it. Kids getting to socialise with other people their own age. Which is, something that would do them a world of good. And it's something that they would really benefit from, because it would mean that they would get to form a lot of friendships. They would really, it would do them a lot of good, to be honest. I mean, I think, the Radfords allowing us around it is a very stupid thing to do, and it's not something that realistically any decent parent would do. Especially when you think about the allegations that were made against Chris. We're talking child grooming. It doesn't get any serious than allegations of child grooming being made against someone. Allegations like that are serious enough. And I feel like that's a perfectly good reason for them to keep Chris well away from their kids. I think, at the end of the day, I don't care if people don't believe that or don't believe what he did anything or what, but as far as I'm concerned, we all know that Chris is a guilty man, regardless of what, people will say on this. He is a guilty man, and if Sue and Noel had any common sense, they wouldn't have allowed someone like this around their kids. But they've obviously been fed that, as I said, the reason they allowed him around their kids was they've obviously been fed that lie about Chris being completely innocent and not doing anything wrong. Absolute bullshit. Of course Chris is going to say, I never did anything wrong, I'm completely innocent. What? I don't think anybody with out common sense would believe that is true. Simple as that. So I hope you enjoyed this short little video, and I'll see you for another one soon. Bye bye.